Get going here. So I just want to wish a warm welcome to everyone who is attending today. My name is Brad McDougall, and I'm the Professional Development Coordinator for OnCue Regina. Thanks to a federal grant from the Canadian Performing Arts Workers Recovery Fund, administered by Canadian Heritage, OnCue's incubator program in 2022-2023 will include 3 professional development opportunities intended to serve a range of performing artists working in different disciplines at different stages in their career, both within the city of Regina and provincially. As part of this incubator program, this is the 3rd in a series of online professional development workshops. OnCue Performance Hub is a new nonprofit performing arts organization with a new organizational model and approach, offering a collaborative producing model serving local artists and diverse audiences in Regina and beyond. Our aim is to enliven Regina's downtown core and activate connections between performing artists, businesses, and audiences. We bring together artists across dance, music, and theater, and spoken word. Our goal is better retention of creatives within our community through a supportive environment that facilitates innovation and the realization of creative ideas, while providing practical professional development of the business and administrative skills creative entrepreneurs need to survive and thrive as independent artists. We are grateful to be working on Treaty 4 land, the territory of the Nehiyawak, the Anishinaabeg, Dakota, Lakota, and Nakota, and the homeland of the Métis Michif Nation. We also acknowledge the people of Treaties 2, 6, 8, and 10. We recognize the past and the ongoing harms experienced by these people and embrace a mandate to work with them in fostering greater understanding and a better way forward. Along with us today are our interpreters, Karen Nurkowski and Sue Schmidt. Landon Walliser is our administrator. Also with us today is Anita Smith, the Artistic and Executive Director of 25th Street Theatre, who also runs the Saskatoon Fringe Festival. And she's here to talk about the Fringe Festival and Fringe Festivals across the country. And I believe she's just returned from a big conference, so she's got all kinds of new stuff to tell you. And she'll answer your questions. Anita is an actor, director, producer, and mother, who is also the Artistic and Executive Director of 25th Street Theatre, a dedicated and active member of the Saskatoon theatre community. Anita has appeared in Fruitcake for 25th Street Theatre, Penelopead for Farah. Did I pronounce that correctly? Fair? Fair. Okay. Fair Play Theatre. The Revolutionist, Boing Boing, Trout Stanley, Quick Bright Things for Persephone, Twelfth Night and the Winter's Tale, and Julius Caesar for Shakespeare on the Saskatchewan, among others. Anita also regularly works as a director and is proud to have directed Julius Caesar, As You Like It for Shakespeare on the Saskatchewan, and The Invisible Girl for Persephone. A passionate feminist, Anita is a founder member of Fair Play Theatre, whose inaugural production of the Penelopead received numerous SAT awards. And in addition, Anita has produced 18 musicals, 7 provincial theatre tours, and 3 Fringe festivals. Anita is proud to be a YWCA Young Woman of Distinction Award recipient for her work in bringing theatrical opportunities to youth in rural Saskatchewan. Upcoming in the spring, Anita is excited to direct The Birds and the Bees, a co-production between Persephone Theatre and the Globe Theatre. And I will put Anita's bio in the chat for you to review later. A few house guidelines. You can put your questions in the chat. And Anita, I'll just ask you, would you rather have people put them in the chat, or would you just want them to put up a hand and ask a question? We've got 3 people, so it'd be easy.
I think that's fine. I think that would be fine.
That's what we'll do. So for now, please mute yourselves, and I'll turn it over to Anita. She gives me a second to pull up her PowerPoint.
You just tell me when, okay, Brad?
Yeah. Okay. Anytime.
Okay. Hi, Brad. Hi, Jody. Hi, Rachel. Yeah, you already know who I am. Sorry about the lengthy bio. But here we are. Let's talk about finding your fringe feet. So if we can just go to the next one. So the Saskatoon Fringe Festival, which I represent, is a member of the Canadian Association of Fringe Festivals. And it's a bit of a misleading title because even though we are the Canadian Association, we have members all across the United States as well. So one of the things that, no, really the thing that binds us all together is these guiding principles that under which we operate. So there's 5 of them. There was 4 when they formed in 1992, but they added a 5th, I think in 2015 or 2016. But the principles are: participants will be selected on a non-juried basis through a first-come, first-served process, a lottery, or other method approved by the association. So that's number 1. So most of our festivals are lottery based. There are still some that do first come, first served, but Edmonton in particular, which is the largest fringe festival in North America, was finding a problem with people lining up in extreme weather to get their spot at the fringe. They were finding people selling their spots in line to other people. So they did away with that. We in Saskatoon are a lottery system as well. And in fact, it closes tomorrow. So if you're interested, you might want to throw your hat in the ring after this. The second principle is that artists will receive 100% of the tickets and pass price as agreed upon between the artists and the festivals, less any applicable government taxes. Festivals may add a surcharge to tickets and passes. So what we do in Saskatoon, and again, it's different from festival to festival, is we add a surcharge to each ticket. In the past, they used to do a button system, and some fringes still do that. We found that the surcharge works best for our community, but other communities, they find that it doesn't work very well. So they find other ways to supplement their income. For example, they will sell their programs. I think I might have a riot on my hands if I attempted to sell the program in Saskatoon. So that is not a way that we would feel is appropriate for us to earn income. But there's enough flexibility in that it allows each festival to do what works best for their community. And I will say that we actually do add the taxes to our ticket prices. So we pass that cost onto the patron rather than taking it out of the fees that we pay to the ticket revenue earned by the artists. And of course, that means that we will be adding PST to our tickets this year. So we will be increasing our cost by 5%, but of course we won't see that money. Number 3 is fringe festival producers have no control over the artistic content of each performance. The artistic freedom of the participant is unrestrained. So this has been a very interesting conversation that we had at the Canadian Association of Fringe Festivals conference this past week in Montreal. Because of the addition of the 5th principle. So I will wait until we get to that one before I talk about that a little more. So number 4 is festivals must provide an easily accessible opportunity for all audiences and all artists to participate in fringe festivals. Again, when they wrote these in 1992, accessible to them literally meant affordable. That is not what accessible means today. So this is another one of the principles that is being re-explored. I believe the intention is to clarify accessible, what exactly that means. And I think it will be clarified so that it is more in line with how we consider things to be accessible today. And number 5, which is the most recent principle, is festivals will promote and model inclusivity, diversity, and multiculturalism, and will endeavor to incorporate them into all aspects of our organizations, including our boards, staffs, and volunteers. Now, this is a wide-held principle amongst all of the CAF festivals. Nobody is debating this in any way. However, the way that it interacts with the third principle has recently created some confusion and some situations that have made us realize that the two principles do not play nice together necessarily. So we're undergoing some work over this next year. I may have volunteered to sit on that committee to figure out how we can rephrase these so that, and in particular, phrase number 3, so that we can uphold number 5. Number 5 has become the priority. So it's a matter of like, but how? So we just hope to get some clarity here. Plus, they're 30 years old. It's time for them to be cleaned up and brushed off a little bit. So we don't want. Somebody said to me, the Fringe is a movement, so we have to be able to move. We have to be able to like adapt and adjust. And so I don't think anybody's like hanging on to these principles for all time. I think that especially in the recent years, there's been a real shift in the way that people think, and we're not afraid to make adjustments if needed. Okay, so I'll go to the next slide. Okay, this map is terrible, but if you give your eyes a minute to adjust, I pulled it off of the Canadian Association of Fringe Festivals website. So this is a location of all of the fringe festivals that are members of CAF. So you will see that, you know, they stretch right across the country. But then we also have a 3, I said 3 in, yeah, it's 3 in Florida, but I was met with Orlando and Tampa, but I can't figure out who the other one would be right now. And then there's some along the West Coast as well, San Francisco and San Diego. And San Diego's festival is actually quite interesting because half of their venues are in San Diego and the other half are across the border in Mexico. So they have this really kind of cool international festival that stands alone. So if you want to see complete list of all the festivals, you can just go to the CAF website. They're all listed there, and they have all of their dates there as well. So you can go check that out. But there is quite a range of fees, like in terms of your participation, in terms of the number of performances you get, and the guaranteed technical support you get. For our festival, we've been told we're one of the more supportive technical festivals. I think it was Elgin Festival, which is just outside of Chicago in Illinois. They said we literally promised them lights up, lights down, and that's it. So it depends where you're going in terms of what support you'll get. There are also a large number of festivals that have something called BYOV, so bring your own venue, which means that you pay a fee to be considered a part of their festival. However, they are not providing you with a venue, and sometimes they'll provide you front of house staff, sometimes they won't. Pretty much always your box office has to go through them. Edmonton, for example, actually has a much larger BYOV presence than they do their actual fringe venues. So the way that they have decided that that works for them is that if they don't bring those companies in through BYOV, they're just going to put up shows anyway that are going to run in competition to the shows that are a part of the Fringe. So the way they work with that is they're like, we'd rather bring them in to be a part of our festival than separate them out. And because they're so big, so many people want to participate in that festival. There is something as well called the CAF Touring Lottery. So if people are interested, they can put their name into the lottery through CAF. And I believe you have to select 3 stops, a minimum of 3 stops. And then if your name is pulled out of the hat, you get spots at those 3 festivals. So they used to make it 6, but post-pandemic, they decided that it made more sense for people to do smaller regional tours rather than like the full like move your way across the country tour. It still can be done. It's just not possible through the CAF touring lottery. But I think it's a great way, if you are interested in going to more than one festival, I think it's a great way of getting a chance to do that. I'll go to the next slide, please. Okay. So for the longest time, no, let me back up. In the 70s, 25th Street Theater was a pretty big deal. They were doing some really groundbreaking stuff and getting a lot of national attention. The former artistic director at Persephone Theater told me that everybody wanted to work for, when they were coming out of school, everybody wanted to work for 25th Street Theater because it was the cool company, and Persephone was like the stuffy company. So, there was this really wonderful avant-garde, pushing the envelope kind of place, right? And then finances made it impossible for them to continue to produce shows as well as the Fringe Festival. So in 1989, the first Fringe Festival happened in Saskatoon, and it went quite well. So they decided to keep it going. But by 1999, they made the decision that they were going to have to stop producing in favor of doing the Fringe Festival. So that was the decision that was made. We recently started producing again. So in 2021, we did our first show produced by 25th Street Theater. It was called Fruitcake. And then it was by playwright Heather Morrison, as well as production dramaturgy was by Lenore Claire Harum. And then in 2022, we produced Rachel Walliser's play, Breaking the Curse, which was intended to be staged live and in person, and then COVID kept throwing us curveballs, and it ended up being this really cool, filmed in front of a green screen kind of project. So anyway, I digress. But because we're doing those additional activities now, it's not just me anymore. We have a year-round staff of 3 people. And I do have a confession. I have never done a Fringe Festival as an artist. I don't know why. I don't know what happened. I guess I was just busy doing other things. But now that I'm on the administration end of it, I so wish that I had participated as an artist, because I can see all of the great things that they get out of it. So I just want to be fully transparent there, that I am not a touring artist expert by any means. I'm looking at this from the perspective of someone who's produced other things and as an administrator. Okay, next slide, please.
Yep.
Too many. There we go. Okay. So at the Saskatoon Fringe Festival, while it is a lottery, we divide into 3 groups. So that is allowed. We are allowed to do that under the CAF rules. So we create 6 slots for international artists, 6 slots for national artists, and 6 slots for local artists. And we define local as the province of Saskatchewan. So within these slots, though, we also have kind of created subcategories. So we have what we call our Diverse Voices program, where we save 3 slots for artists who self-identify as Indigenous, Black, persons of color, immigrant, or refugee artists. They get into the festival at no charge. So, and if you know someone, we do still have spaces available for that program. So please tell them to go ahead and just hit that apply button. For the Kids Fringe, we have 3 slots available for programming that's specifically aimed at children under the age of 10. Sometimes we get large groups that come into that, like the Boys and Girls Club or other like sort of day camp programs. Sometimes we're able to get additional sponsorship and we can buy those tickets for the patrons. Last year, those tickets for kids shows were the same price as all the other shows. And this year we're looking at doing a different price for those points as well, just because we found that maybe the sales weren't what they were. And we think that perhaps what they could have been, and perhaps that's because of the way we had our ticket fees set up. So let's go to the next slide, please. Okay, so these are important dates related to my Fringe, the one that I represent. So tomorrow is our deadline to apply. So if you're interested, be sure to get on that one as quickly as you can. And then the next day, so on Wednesday, we're going to make the draw. We're going to let everybody know by 3 o'clock where they stand, if they got a slot or if they're on the wait list. And then what happens is those people who were selected for a slot have 48 hours to pay their registration fee. And once they've done that, they are in. Now, I want to make it clear that the only thing you really need to apply is your name and the fee. And that's it. We don't have any judgment on what your show is. We don't need you to tell us what your show is. We don't need any of that. We just need your name. So then what we do is we set a deadline to withdraw as March 31st. So and we give you back pretty much your full fee. We do take some sort of like administration fee for the cost of having to like go and find someone else to fill your spot. But by March 31st, you have until March 31st to go. Not for me. I'm not interested this year. So then in April, we do a technical intake form. So we send a whack of questions out to you and ask you to consider everything that you're going to need. We'll ask you about like your content warnings as well. And so those can change. Like you don't have to be afraid to like, oh man, did I get everything? Like it's okay. You can come back to us later and be like, actually, we are going to use this thing that might be harmful. So we just like to make sure that we have lots of warnings for our patrons, because part of our job, as we see it, is making sure that that they feel safe going into a show and that they're not caught off guard by what the content is. And then in May, we do a marketing intake form. So that's when we get into we need 150 words for the program so that we can promote you. We need an image so that we can put it in there. We need all of these things. We need to know who your contact person is. Our media relations person will want to know a bit more about your show. And so that's when we get into the more of the, let's start thinking about who's coming to see your show. And that's really when you need a pretty solid idea of what your show is going to be. And then in June, we create the schedule of performances and we assign venues to all of the artists. And our venues, the way that we do that is we just really consider first of all, what you selected as your first pick, second pick, third pick. And then we also consider what your accessibility needs are. And we consider where we think your show will thrive. So we try to work all of those things in together. Almost always, people pick the Broadway theater as their top venue choice, because it seats the most people. But and a lot of people don't pick the Cosmo, but 2 of our best-selling shows this year were at the Cosmo. So I think that you shouldn't always pick the one that's the biggest. Okay, and then we get into the nitty-gritty. So, okay, we do what's called a preview night at our festival. It's optional to participate, but it often is very well attended. And it takes place the day before our festival actually starts. And it's just a chance for you. I think we give you 2 or 3 minutes to go up and pitch your show. Some people will perform scenes, some people will do things that are completely unrelated to what their show is actually about. They're just trying to get attention. And so it's an effective way of doing that. We also will give you technical rehearsal time on August 1st and August 2nd. So those are the 2 days in the lead up to the festival. And then our festival starts August 3rd to 12th. We run for 10 days. It's a big 10 days. But you will get 7 performances over that time. So you're not, you as artists are not necessarily required to be on site every day. You're definitely not. It's just quite often you come anyway because you want to see the other shows. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so the breakdown of the performances. So participating groups each receive 7 performance slots over the course of the 10 days. You'll be given the option to participate in preview night, which is well attended, And there are a total of 18 companies that will be participating in the 2023 Fringe, which means that there will be 196 performances taking place over the course of that 10 days, which is a lot, and which is why marketing your show is so very, very, very important. Next slide, please. So these are the 3 venues that we'll be using this year. In the past, we have used more venues, but we were finding, not the royal we, it was me. I found that the financial model that we had set up was not sustainable. So I reduced the number of venues. But what makes us particularly unique when compared to other Fringe festivals is all of our venues are within walking distance of each other. That is not the case. I don't think anywhere else can say that you can just walk very easily from one to the other. Like ours are, I think, maybe 2 blocks at most away from each other. So it's a very walkable festival. The Broadway Theater has a max capacity of 430 patrons. It's a film house that is also used as a theater. It has very minimal backstage space, but it's a pre-built venue, so there's like great LED lighting. It's air conditioned, which, believe it or not, really matters to patrons when they're deciding what they're going to see. And it's accessible, so patrons it's accessible to patrons, I should say. The stage itself is accessible, but not great. So then the Refinery has a maximum capacity of 110 patrons, and it's a black box theater, and that max capacity is just dependent on how seats are set up. It's a pre-built venue. It's not accessible, but it is often an artist favorite, and I think that is in part because of the technician. It's the same technician there for every show, and it's someone who has a great deal of experience. So it's well liked by artists. The Cosmo, it is the one venue that we build out. It's kind of a hall, like a community hall type thing. It has a stage. We don't use it as a stage. Instead, we bring in risers, and we have a not risers, but we have a raised stage. And it is air conditioned. And like I said, I went in there a few times this summer. I saw all 18 shows this summer. Very proud of that because it took a lot of work, but I got to see all 18 shows, and there were times when I went in there and had trouble finding a seat. So I would not be dissuaded by the Cosmo. Next slide, please. Okay, so what you can expect from us is not the same as what you can expect from all of the festivals, but this is what we are able to do for our artists. So in terms of tech support, you will have access to your venue for a tech rehearsal of your show on one of the days leading up to the festival. So it's one of those 2 days. We'll provide a technician, we'll support your show and run the lights. They are with you every performance, health permitting, as well as your technical rehearsal. All ticket sales will be run through our box office, and we will provide you with a reconciliation report and pay you your portion of the collected ticket sales within 1 week of the festival closing. We used to do a mid-run payout, and again, when I started, I just realized there were just a lot of errors when we did it that way. So instead, we wait until the festival's done so we can make sure that we get everything done properly. So in terms of promotional support, we will hang your posters on all of the constructed promotional platforms that we have. We have these gigantic poster boards that we put up around the site. You drop your posters off with us, we'll make sure they get hung up. We'll post about your show on our social media. That's another one that we do a lot of that maybe some of the other festivals don't. We will promote your show in our festival program. We have a great looking program. I'm very proud of our programs. So you'll get a spot in there. We engage a media consultant to promote the festival and line up interviews with artists at the media's request. So her name is Brittany Zapshala, and she's a former CBC reporter and has great connections in Saskatoon. So we're very lucky to have her on our team. And we will promote the festival overall with photos, videos, sponsored social media posts, radio ads, billboards, cross-promotional activities with other festivals and arts organizations in the city. We have really good relationships there. So that is one very effective way of getting the word out. In terms of accommodation support, we seek to provide billets for all of our out-of-town artists, and we're usually quite successful with this. COVID has complicated things in the recent past in so many ways, but this being one of them. But we are, like, I want to say 99% successful in finding accommodations for out-of-town artists. And our safer spaces. So we work very hard to create spaces that are welcoming and inclusive. We have a code of conduct that we are committed to upholding at our festival, and we strive to create multiple ways in which artists can connect with various members of our staff and or the board to address any concerns or incidents that have been brought to our attention in a timely and compassionate fashion. That's very important to us. We want to be a safer space for everyone. Next slide, please. Okay, what you should not expect from us. We will not provide additional stagehands nor additional technicians to help with your show. You are responsible for providing your own stage manager who will run your sound cues off of their own device. And we do not offer mid-run payouts, like I was saying. For promotional support, we won't hang your posters on non-Fringe platforms. So there's a lot of barrels in the area where we are. You're welcome to hang them up there, but we won't do it. We won't print your posters or your handbills. We won't write your press release or contact the media to specifically promote your show. I do advocate for the festival with the media. We had some difficulty, I guess, this past year because our local daily publication opted to only review local shows rather than national and international shows as well. They'd always done that in the past, but this year they opted not to. So I'm hopeful that we can sway that so that that's not the case in 2023. But at the same time, I'm a little bit stuck. I don't control what they do. So what we were able to do though was there is a former Star Phoenix reporter who has a blog and he reviews shows. So it's called Podsask, and everyone who participated in the festival got a review on that platform, which is important. Reviews are very important when you're promoting your show and when you're trying to get grants for the future, all of that. So that is something that we do help with. For accommodation support, we don't provide food or guarantee a billet. We can't do that, but we do try our best. And we cannot provide transportation for the artists, but all of our billets are within walking distance of the festival. Next slide, please. Okay, so this graph is super misleading. So this is the total revenue returned to artists for in-person performances in 2022. So you will see at the one end, Edmonton returned almost $1 million to artists, which is pretty incredible. I also think they had almost 200 artists participating. So it'd be interesting to see like how that breaks out on a per artist basis. You will see us, we are like I'm gonna say we're bordering on the top third there. So we paid out $43,528 to our in-person theater artists this past year. Yeah, but the average is $110,752, but it is heavily skewed by that $950,000 paid out by Edmonton. They are just so big. Okay, next slide, please. So this is our financial breakdown for the Fringe Festival. We have an application fee of $60. It's due when you apply to be a part of the festival, and it is non-refundable. Once you're accepted into the festival, you will have to pay your registration fee, which is $690. It's due when you accept your spot at the festival, and it's partially refundable up until the end of March. I will say, so that combined cost is $750. That doesn't come anywhere close to what it actually costs us to put on one show, like not a show, a production, what it costs for us to put a production as part of our festival. It's nowhere close. So it's heavily subsidized. But of course, I recognize that it is a significant financial commitment, so it can be a barrier to participation. But it is truly what we need to do at this time. So our ticket price in 2022 was $12 per ticket. It's the same as what it will be in 2023, but we are going to add a few, as I mentioned before, varying prices to accommodate the younger patrons. We also add an administration fee to that ticket price, so the actual cost to the patron is $16 plus taxes. And the approximate average take home for artists in 2022 was $3,100. Our highest take home was $4,100, but we had quite a few that were really close to that. Like our top selling show is, oh, if we can just go back for a sec, was very close to, the second place show and the third place show. I will say our lowest artist take home was $1,300, but I will say, and I'm just going to tell you this because it's a fun thing to know, but don't budget for this. If you were to have the biggest venue at our festival and you sold out all of the shows, you would have made $36,000. So, we are way ahead now. So if you are ever considering, what your potential earnings could be, that's as high as they could be. Don't budget for that. Okay, next slide, please. These were our top selling shows of 2022. So A Great Mistake actually won our Best of Fringe award. It was a two-hander. They're American. It was comedy, it was physical theater, it was magic. It was a wonderful show. It was a really very strong show. Eleanor's Story was also one of our top sellers. Again, a very strong show, one-person show, a historical drama, true story about Ingrid. Ingrid was the performer. It was about her grandmother's experience as an American living in Germany during World War II. So it was quite a fascinating story. Again, Ingrid is American. And then we had two local shows that did very well as well. So The Love Interest was a four-hander, a comedy, a well-known local playwright, well-loved, I should say. And then Metempsychosis was a four-hander comedy / drama. The only show I think I cried at during the festival. So it pulled at my heart. And that cast was, and the writer was very well-loved as well. So those shows were our top sellers. And I tell you that not because that's what shows you should do. You should do shows like this, because they're quite a range of what the story was about and the cast size and all of that. But just so you have an idea, one person that I was at the conference with this past week said burlesque sells out every time. So like there are some things that are sort of slam dunks at the Fringe Festival, but that doesn't mean that's what you need to do, because that's the beauty of the Fringe. It's really up to you. You get to decide what story you want to tell. I'll go to the next slide, please. So this is my sample Fringe work plan. So you should start by applying, because you don't need anything except the fee and your name. And you should determine all the fringes that you want to attend and throw your hat in the ring. Maybe if this is your first time, you only want to do the one, and that's cool. But I bet you'll want to do more than one the next year. So maybe though travel is an issue for you, and so you can only do one, and that's cool too. It's really up to you. Your next step is please complete your intake forms and sign your agreements, and read all of the communication from your festivals, because they're trying to set you up for success. They have great tips. We create like sort of a how to promote your show manual that we share with people. We give out all of the direct contacts for the local media, so you can start contacting them directly. But yes, please complete those intake forms because without that, we can't support you. So then you should figure out what you want to do. The world is your oyster, so go for it. But get all your necessary licenses. I can't stress that one enough. We don't have a SOCAN license that applies to every show that happens here. You could potentially fly under the radar, but you will also sign an agreement with me that states that you are not using any copywritten material. And it also states that you absolve us as a Saskatoon Fringe of any obligation, legal obligation, should something happen. My recommendation is just don't do it. Don't use copywritten material, and then you won't have to worry about it. Number 4, you should build your team. Who are your collaborators going to be? And by that, I don't just mean the people on stage, I mean your designers and your stage manager. Such an important part of what you're going to do, right? Then you put your producer hat on, you create the schedule, the budget, a work plan for your project, and then you maintain communication with your festival and your team. That's absolutely crucial. Then you can start thinking about how you're going to promote your show, because we can only take you so far. It is up to you to try and fill your house. We will do what we can, but you have to take on some responsibility. We had an artist this past year who chose not to print posters and then was surprised their show didn't sell well. I can't do much. I can't hang your poster if you don't give me a poster. You also have to think of maybe creative ways of marketing your show. Handbills, we are allowing them this year. They do have an actual environmental impact, so you have to consider that when you decide whether or not you want to print handbills. A lot of people will use QR codes that they just ask people to scan so that they can learn about their show. Quite often I'll see like posters like sort of like up on people's backpacks, so like as they walk through a crowd, they're promoting their show. Toronto told me about an artist that this is so strange, would leave a potato to promote their show. They would like leave potatoes around the festival, and they would like write their show information on the potato. I don't know what the show was about, if it involved potatoes at all, but that was one thing that they did. And then I would say, while you're at the Fringe, build relationships, because it's about so much more than just connecting with your team. You should see other shows, promote other shows as part of your show. You should connect with artists from both near and far, maybe even volunteer, because you get to have a different experience at the festival by volunteering, and you get to see more free shows. And then the last but not least, step into the spotlight and have fun. This is why you did it, right? You wanted to do this show. So use the opportunity that you have to connect with your audience, because that's where the magic is. Next slide, please. So why Fringe? I had nothing to do with the Fringe for many years of my career. So I didn't really get it. But now that I have spent some time here, I'm starting to see where that is the magic of the Fringe, right? It's that chance for you to have artistic freedom. There's no gatekeepers saying, your idea isn't good enough, or you're not good enough, or whatever. It's none of that. It's, if you have something that you want to share, here's your platform. You get to form local, national, and international connections to other artists. And having just been at the CAF conference this past week, I too was reminded of how important it is to have those connections, because even for me as a Fringe producer, I have somebody to reach out to then and be like, I just don't know about this thing. Like, do you have an idea? And it's just really fascinating when you have those widespread connections to be able to see what's possible. You can learn from other artists. You can connect to new communities. You can travel to new places. And you can expand your artistic producing skills, which I think are crucial if you want to have a long career in the arts. Next slide, please. Any questions? That's the end of my formal presentation. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Oh, I
Right.
see a question. Oh, sorry. Just before we get into that, Billy, I see a question here. You have to be a previous company to apply to the Fringe Lottery, I think. Not anymore. They changed that requirement this year. Go ahead, Billy.
Right. Well, thank you so much for the, I'm going to call it an exclusive behind the scenes look here because there's so few of us. So thank you very much. And in the spirit of you had a confession earlier of your imposter of not being a performer. I've been watching, thinking about this for a couple of years, and so it took a lot of nerve to click the link to join the meeting tonight, and I'm so glad I did because you made it sound completely within reach and doable and just so inviting. And so I just wanted to thank you for what you shared tonight because it definitely tipped things over and made it like, well, of course, why wouldn't I do this? Because you've made it sound, so accessible, right? To use the word you're using. So thank you very much for what you shared tonight.
I'm so glad to hear that. Thank you. Thank you. You made my heart feel bigger now.
Quick question before anyone else has something. In an effort to just encourage conversation, registrants, do you want me to just add you all to a spotlight on the screen so that you can all just kind of converse freely with a little less structure than me spotlighting each of you individually? That good, Jody, Jane, Rachel? Now have at it. Question time.
I don't think I really have any questions that I can think of right now. It was just so informative and you covered so much. I don't think I have anything that's coming to mind at least.
I'm not far. If you do have questions after, you can certainly reach out, and I'd be happy to answer them as best I can.
For sure.
Thank you so much, Anita. It was really informative, and I'm really appreciating you taking the broad sort of Canadian Fringe Festival perspective and then bringing it right down to home. I have a couple of questions in regard to children's theater, or the children's, the portion. When you mentioned that there'd be a price change. So two questions, first of all. One's around the price change and how that would impact the revenue, obviously, from if there's a less of a ticket price on the or ticket return. And then where does it, in the national, international, and then local, is Children's Fringe a separate thing? It's another separate thing, or do they come from those categories?
That's right. We pull them from those categories. So you can be from anywhere in the world, and we will take you and we will put you in a separate pool that is Kids Fringe. And then depending on the names that get pulled from that, so let's pretend like one gets pulled from international, one gets pulled from national, one gets pulled from local. We would just deduct one from each of the remaining. So there would be 5 instead of 6 for each category. There's now 5 available for each category.
So there isn't necessarily a maximum for Children's Fringe. It's dependent on applications that you get, more or less everybody was a children's one. Because you have a maximum of 18 performance or Fringe. All right, got you. Okay.
That's right. In terms of the price difference, knew someone was going to ask me that and I wasn't going to have the answer handy. But we are reducing the price like by a few dollars, not half. And we are splitting that reduction with the artist. So we are reducing our admin fee and then reducing it for the artist as well. But the artist will have to review and agree to that prior. I wish I had that handy, but I can pass it on after if that's helpful.
Okay, great. No, thank you for that. And then the last thing I'm wondering about is outdoor Fringe? Didn't, no, not doing any outdoor venue?
No, sorry. Okay, so thank you. I was like, oh, should I touch on the outdoor fringe? Well, I'm not going to really do that, I don't think this time. But okay, so Saskatoon, again, all of our festivals are so unique, and that is definitely what makes Saskatoon unique, is our very large outdoor component. So large, in fact, that often people don't realize that we are a theater festival. So
Right.
we have a bit of an identity issue. And I had a board member say to me, oh, that's a generational shift. You're probably not going to be able to move that in like your time. But I'm still trying to bring it home that like we are first a theater festival, and then we also have an outdoor component. So in the past, our outdoor component was on Broadway, and I'm not going to lie, was extremely stressful and took a ton of our resources, because we had to open and close a main street every day. So that was a decision that we made, was to try and move just off of Broadway. Like you just have to turn the corner. That's it. And we're right there. So we still have a fairly significant outdoor portion of our festival with the street buskers and with artisan vendors and food trucks. So it really, we kind of get, but we're in the park right behind Victoria School. So if you're familiar with Saskatoon, and we close 11th Street. So that becomes our sort of our hub. And what's great about that is we don't have to take it down every day. We can leave all of that infrastructure up. And because of that, we've been able to create so many more arts engagement opportunities with our community. And it's been a huge shift in how we operate as a staff and the resources that we're able to allocate to the theater portion of our festival. Because if we are completely consumed by the outdoor portion, we can't be the support system that we want to be for the theater portion. So the footprint is different than it has been in the past, but we've heard really good things from our busking artists in terms of the revenue that they made this past year. They never fully disclose. They never fully tell you what they made, but they were happy. And our artisan vendors, the feedback we got from them was that they were very happy as well. We get about, my estimate is about 30,000 people to the outdoor portion of our site over the course of the 10 days.
Then not necessarily crossover from theater to that, to the you don't have an outdoor stage where that's a venue also? No, okay.
We used to have an outdoor stage. We had it for 1 year. And I think I said, if we ever do an outdoor stage again, I'm quitting.
Okay.
Because it was just the weather, the reality of weather in Saskatchewan just made it like scary to and when you pay a fee to participate as part of our festival, I want to guarantee you a certain level of experience, and I couldn't do that with the outdoor stage.
Gotcha. Great. Well, thank you for taking the time to answer all those questions.
Oh, no
Can
worries.
I piggyback on that conversation though and ask, is it possible to be producing a play and also be a busker? Like if you have a really talented cast that do singing and stuff, can you use that as part of your promotion? Oh, cool.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah. And that is one thing we want to do this next year as well. We've learned every year, right? Oh, next year we're gonna add this and we're gonna do that. But one of the things we want to do this next year is like give more opportunities for our theater artists to be promoting their shows to the 30,000 people that are hanging around the outside portion, because they don't necessarily know it's a theater festival.
Yeah, that's wild. It's wild to me to think that as a theater person, but then again, I know so many people, when I mention Fringe Festival, they're like, what's that? I'm like, how do you, Fringe is so seminal. How do you not know what Fringe is? But they just don't.
They don't. We're trying though. We'll get to them.
Yeah, yeah.
Anita, can I just ask a question about obviously one of the expenses that these artists need to take into consideration is accommodation in the city when the Fringe is on. Do you make efforts to try to give them suggestions on how they can put themselves up, how they minimize those costs?
Yeah, we actually offer the billets. So they can, which comes at no cost. I mean, often our artists will, well, there was a really sweet one this past year where the artist knew that their billet was in the house. And so they thanked them from the stage. And I was sitting near that billet and they got a little choked up. But like, or they'll like comp them tickets to their shows, or they might like buy them dinner one night or something like that. It's not a requirement. In fact, most of the time our billets will feed the artists. But yeah, that's the way that we try and offset that cost for the touring artists. One time I attempted to get a hotel for a touring artist, and I was successful.
Right.
But it took some serious work.
Yeah. Okay, just wondered. That's good to know about the billets.
Anything else? Looks like we're good then.
Well, if there are no more questions, I just want to thank Anita for her presentation. I think we're now all convinced that we should jump into the Fringe immediately, as quickly as possible. And I'd like to thank also our two interpreters, Sue and Karen, for their assistance today. And also, if I could thank Heritage Canada for their Canadian Heritage for their support of this project. Landon, did you have something to say?
I did not, other than we have a show
Okay.
opening tomorrow. Everyone, so if you're in Regina, feel free to come out to My Name is Rachel Corey, which opens tomorrow. Tomorrow is the preview performance, so it is pay what you will, and it runs until the 26th. Yeah, we also have another professional development session happening on Saturday with Rebel Marketing and Media. That is publicity and marketing for independent artists, so I also encourage you to check that out. And then another one in early December, which is accounting for independent artists.
Thank
All
you so
right.
much, Anita, for this.
Thank you for having me. Thank you, OnQ. You're doing very cool things. So thank you. And thank you for coming, Billy and Jody and Jane and Rachel. Thank you.
Yeah,
And thanks,
thank
Sue.
you.
Thanks, Karen.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
Bye.
Say
Have a
good
great
night.
evening.
Have a good night,
Good night.
everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.